Have you ever wondered what would happen if the United States suddenly stopped supporting some of its closest partners in Asia? From economic lifelines to military security guarantees, U.S. backing has shaped the future of many Asian nations. But what if that support disappeared by 2025? Today, we'll explore 10 Asian countries that could face serious crises without U.S. involvement. Some might surprise you. Asia is home to some of the world's fastest-growing economies, most powerful militaries, and largest populations. Yet, many countries remain deeply tied to the United States for defense, trade, technology, and diplomacy. In this video, we'll analyze 10 Asian countries that are highly dependent on U.S. support. Our selection is based on economic reliance, security partnerships, military aid, and strategic alliances. From the Middle East to Southeast Asia, we'll uncover how fragile the balance could become if Washington pulled back its hand. Number 10. Ukraine's war with Russia has made U.S. support absolutely critical. Washington has provided over $75 billion in military and financial aid. Without this assistance, Ukraine would struggle to defend itself against Moscow's army. The U.S. also supplies advanced weapons systems, training, and intelligence. Economically, American aid prevents Ukraine's financial collapse. Diplomatically, Washington rallies allies to sanction Russia and back Kyiv. Historically, U.S. support has strengthened Ukraine's democratic institutions since 1991. Cultural ties with the U.S. have grown through education and youth exchanges. Without U.S. involvement, Ukraine would face diplomatic isolation. Its economy would collapse under the weight of war costs. Militarily, Russia would gain significant advantages without American weapons. Ukraine's sovereignty depends heavily on Washington's backing. Without U.S. support, Ukraine could face defeat and occupation. Number 9. Saudi Arabia has relied on U.S. support for decades to protect its oil-rich economy. Washington provides advanced weapons, training, and security cooperation. Without American protection, Saudi Arabia would be far more vulnerable to Iranian threats. U.S. technology also safeguards the kingdom's critical oil infrastructure. Economically, American companies remain central to Saudi oil trade and diversification projects. Historically, the U.S.-Saudi relationship began with oil-for-security arrangements in the 20th century. Vision 2030 aims to modernize the kingdom, but U.S. support remains crucial. Cultural ties exist through education, business, and strategic investments. Without Washington, Saudi Arabia would face difficulties balancing global power rivalries. Chinese and Russian influence would likely expand in Riyadh's foreign policy. Losing U.S. defense guarantees would weaken Saudi Arabia's regional dominance. American arms sales also provide advanced systems not easily replaced. Without U.S. support, Saudi Arabia would face instability and weakened global influence. Number 8. Israel is one of the largest recipients of U.S. foreign aid. Washington provides over $3.8 billion annually, mostly in military assistance. Without U.S. support, Israel would struggle to defend itself against hostile neighbors. The Iron Dome missile system is funded heavily by American aid. Diplomatically, the U.S. shields Israel in international forums like the United Nations. Economically, America is a top trading partner, especially in technology and defense. Historically, U.S. involvement was critical since Israel's founding in 1948. Cultural and religious ties between the two countries run deep. Without Washington's protection, Israel would face growing Iranian and regional threats. American influence also helps Israel negotiate peace deals and alliances. Losing this support would reduce Israel's legitimacy on the world stage. Israeli innovation also depends on U.S. partnerships and investments. Without U.S. backing, Israel's security and stability would face existential risks. Number 7. Japan's alliance with the United States is the cornerstone of its defense strategy. Over 50,000 U.S. troops are stationed in Japan to ensure regional stability. Without American forces, Japan would face threats from China and North Korea. Economically, the U.S. is Japan's largest export destination, particularly for cars and electronics. Washington's backing also shields Japan diplomatically within the United Nations. Historically, the U.S. rebuilt Japan after World War II, shaping its democracy. Japan's pacifist constitution limits its ability to expand its own military. This makes U.S. protection critical for Japan's national defense. Cultural ties include science, education, and pop culture exchanges. Economically, American investment supports Japan's high-tech industries. Without U.S. involvement, Japan would face heavier defense burdens. Its global influence would also weaken without Washington's partnership. The U.S.-Japan alliance remains a foundation of stability in East Asia. Number 6. South Korea owes much of its modern stability to the US-Korea alliance. Nearly 28,500 US troops are stationed in the country to deter North Korea. Without this presence, Seoul would face far greater risks from Pyongyang's nuclear arsenal. Economically, the US is South Korea's second-largest trading partner, worth over $190 billion annually. American support has allowed South Korea to focus on economic growth rather than massive defense costs. Historically, Washington's role during the Korean War ensured the South's survival. Cultural ties include education, technology, and entertainment industries. U.S. markets also helped Korean brands like Samsung and Hyundai succeed globally. Without U.S. backing, South Korea would need to expand its military rapidly. This shift would strain its economy and social development. Diplomatically, Washington strengthens Seoul's global position against regional powers. Without America's role, North Korea's aggression would rise sharply. South Korea's security and prosperity still depend on its U.S. alliance. Number 5. Taiwan's survival largely depends on American protection against Chinese threats. The U.S. supplies advanced weapons and defense systems critical to its safety. Washington also shields Taiwan diplomatically despite not recognizing it as a sovereign nation. Economically, Taiwan is America's ninth-largest trading partner, especially in semiconductors. Its semiconductor industry powers much of the global technology sector. Without U.S. support, Taiwan would be left isolated against China's growing military pressure. Historically, American backing has deterred Beijing from launching a full-scale invasion. The U.S. also provides cultural, educational, and scientific collaboration with Taiwan. Taiwan's democracy represents a model of Asian governance supported by Washington. Without American involvement, Taiwan's diplomatic recognition would collapse further. Its economy would also be threatened by blockades and sanctions from Beijing. Culturally, close ties with the U.S. strengthen Taiwan's global identity. Without U.S. support, Taiwan could lose its freedom and global standing. Number 4. The Philippines and the United States share one of Asia's oldest military alliances, dating back to 1951. The U.S. provides essential defense support as China grows more aggressive in the South China Sea. Without American backing, the Philippines would struggle to defend its maritime borders. Economically, the U.S. is one of its top trading partners, with billions in annual exchange. Millions of Filipinos live and work in the U.S., sending home valuable remittances. These remittances strengthen the country's economy and social stability. Culturally, deep ties exist due to the American colonial era and shared language influences. U.S. military training and equipment significantly boost the Philippines' defense capabilities. Historically, the United States helped liberate the country during World War II. Manila also relies on Washington for disaster relief during typhoons and natural crises. Without U.S. aid, economic shocks and territorial disputes would worsen. The Philippines risks becoming more vulnerable to Chinese influence. American support remains central to its security and prosperity. Number 3. Pakistan has long been a strategic partner of the United States in South Asia. Washington has provided over $33 billion in aid since 2002, including military and development assistance. The U.S. is also one of Pakistan's largest export destinations, purchasing billions in textiles and goods. Without U.S. support, Pakistan's fragile economy would face even greater instability. Its ongoing debt crisis with the IMF has already created major financial stress. American partnerships also bring vital technology, education programs, and investment. Security cooperation helps Pakistan counter terrorism and strengthen its armed forces. Historically, U.S. involvement shaped Pakistan during the Cold War and War on Terror. Washington also balances Islamabad's tense relationship with India. Without this influence, South Asia could face more frequent confrontations. Millions of Pakistanis benefit from cultural and educational exchange programs with America. Without such links, opportunities for the youth would shrink drastically. Pakistan risks deeper economic and security crises if U.S. support fades. Number 2. Bangladesh has grown rapidly in recent decades, but it still relies on U.S. support for stability. Washington is the largest importer of Bangladeshi textiles, which make up over 80% of the country's exports. Without this trade relationship, millions of jobs in the garment industry would be at risk. The U.S. also provides critical humanitarian aid during natural disasters such as cyclones and floods. Historically, Washington backed Bangladesh after its independence in 1971 through development and relief programs. American universities and scholarships have supported thousands of Bangladeshi students over the years. Security cooperation helps Dhaka address terrorism and regional instability. Without US assistance, Bangladesh would face economic shocks and rising unemployment. Its fragile infrastructure would also struggle to recover quickly from natural disasters. Diplomatic ties with Washington strengthened Bangladesh's role in the Indo-Pacific. Without this backing, Dhaka would be more vulnerable to external political pressures. The country's stability is deeply tied to continued American trade and aid. Losing US support would threaten both economic growth and national security.
Number 1.
Turkey, though a NATO member, relies heavily on US support for its defense and economy. The US provides advanced weapons and military cooperation that strengthen Turkey's regional influence. Without Washington's presence, Ankara would face weakened deterrence against regional rivals like Greece and Iran. Economically, the US is one of Turkey's largest trading partners, supporting billions in exports and imports. American tourism and investment also contribute to Turkey's economy. Historically, US backing helped Turkey modernize its military during the Cold War. Cultural and educational exchanges strengthened ties between Turkish and American youth. Without US cooperation, Turkey could drift further toward Russia or China. Such a shift would reduce Ankara's influence in NATO and the Middle East. Losing American defense support would strain Turkey's operations in Syria and its fight against terrorism. Diplomatically, Washington balances Turkey's often complex relationships in the region. Without this partnership, Turkey would risk economic instability and security setbacks. US involvement remains a pillar of Turkey's modern global role. From Afghanistan to Japan, and from Pakistan to Israel, these countries highlight just how critical US support remains in Asia. Military presence, financial aid, diplomatic leverage, and cultural ties all play roles in keeping fragile balances intact. Without US involvement, some nations would face security collapse, others economic crises, and some even existential threats. By 2025, the question is not just whether these countries can stand without Washington, but whether the US itself is ready to step back from its role as a global stabilizer.